2 more hours.
What?
It takes exactly 2 hours to get to Abbotsville from that last turn we just made. I remember timing it the first time we came to Uncle Jim.
I wish it were a little closer. This is without a doubt the roughest road in the entire state of California.
Headed for Abbotsville, ain't you?
That's right.
Well, you ain't gonna make it on this road.
Why not?
Morning, ladies. The Canyon Creek Bridge is out.
Out?
Collapsed sometime during the night.
Well, I ain't surprised. Well, with them heavy ore wagons using it the way they do, guess we'll just have to turn around.
Isn't there another road into Abbotsville?
You get there through Tyler's Cut, but that's 35 miles out of the way.
What about it, driver?
Sorry, miss. I got to connect with the eastbound mail train out of Parkersburg. You got to go back to Lake Junction, and then through the valley.
Well, I guess there's only one thing for us to do. Go back to Lake Junction, then rent a buggy.
Well, that's a mighty hard road through Tyler's Cut, ma'am. I wouldn't try it if I was you.
I don't see how it could be any rougher than this road. But thanks for the warning.
Get up! Get up! Shoot! Ah, heat up! Didn't work.
What happened?
Ladies are going to hire a livery at Lake Junction and go by way of Tyler's Cut. They'll be late getting to Abbotsville, but they'll get there.
Dad?
Been to the bank.
I know.
Just had to have another talk with Seth Duncan. He spent an hour telling me about his new grandchildren. And another half hour raving about a shipment of caviar he just got from Russia. When I got talking about the loan, he suddenly remembered an appointment he had with his tailor.
Dad, why do you keep wasting your time? Now, you know there isn't a bank in the country that's going to lend money on silver these days. And I don't want you begging Seth Duncan for help. We've kept the mine running so far, haven't we?
Yes, but...
Now, no buts about it. That mine's operating. It's going to keep on operating. I promise you that.
Well, I just...
Now, Dad, why don't you go back to work? I'll talk to you later.
All right, sir. All right.
Barkley. Barkley.
Eric!
How nice to see you.
Oh, Eric, how are you?
Audra, my goodness, look
It's been a long time.
3 years.
Yes, you were just about to join some law firm in San Francisco.
That's right. And Dad talked me into coming back here and opening up an office of my own. Well, may I invite you to join me for lunch?
Oh, no, thank you. I'm sure Jim is waiting for us in the hotel.
He's not there, Mrs. Barkley.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Well, we're hours late.
Well, we better get on to the ranch, then.
Oh, Mrs. Barkley, I don't think that would be advisable.
Oh?
It's your brother-in-law. He's ill.
Ill?
It's his mind.
His mind?
That happened just a couple of months ago. Jim and I had been to Arizona to look over some of his holdings. One day, well, about a week after we came back, he,
Well, what, Eric, what?
he tried to kill his foreman.
Mike Newcomb?
Mike was working in the barn. Jim came storming in, babbling something about Mike trying to ruin him by poisoning his cattle. He went after Mike with a bailing hook. He had him down, he would have killed him if some of the hands hadn't been close by. Since then, we've had to keep Jim confined to his room.
You mean he's kept locked up?
I'm sorry, but we had no other choice. Mrs. Barkley, I know what a shock this must be to you. But I'm afraid your brother-in-law is hopelessly insane.
I don't understand. I don't understand why we weren't told about this.
Well, I suppose I should have. I kept putting it off, thinking that maybe Jim would recover. Or at least show some signs of improvement. Then when I got your letter to him, well, I get all of his mail now. Saying that you were stopping here in Abbotsville on your way to a wedding in San Francisco. I decided to wait until you arrived so I could, well, break the news to you in person.
Would you drive us out to the ranch?
Certainly. If you're sure that's what you want to do. I took the liberty of reserving rooms for you here at the hotel. I thought you might prefer staying here under the circumstances.
No, no. I want to see Jim under any circumstances.
All right. I'll get my rig.
It's so good to see you. And Audra, my, you look prettier every day. Oh, I'm so glad you decided to stay here instead of the hotel. Like Mr. Eric set your mind. Come in.
How have you been, Grant?
Oh, Mike and I have just been fine. Considering.
Where is Jim?
He's up there.
I want to see him.
Well, Dr. Morley's with him now.
Dr. Morley?
Yes.
Oh, he's new in town. He's a young man, knows a lot about modern medicine.
What happened to Dr. Pierce?
Oh, Doc Pierce? Oh, he's still around. He'll go on forever, I suppose. But, Doc Pierce is a little old-fashioned. I felt Jim should see somebody who knows more about this sort of thing.
Come on into the living room. We seldom use this room since Mr. Jim took sick.
I've always loved this house.
Oh, it's been home to Mike and me for a lot of years now. I don't really know what we'll do when it comes time to leave.
Now, Mrs. Newcomb, let's not think about that. Mr. Barkley needs you and Mike now more than he ever has. The Newcombs have been very loyal through all this.
Well, I just wish I could do more. It's hard just to stand by and see a fine man like Mr. Jim. But I better see about supper. You'll stay and have it with us, Mr. Eric?
Well, it's very kind of you, Mrs. Newcomb. Thank you. Oh, if I'm not intruding.
Not at all.
Well, then, I'll just get things started.
So I've given him an injection. He'll quiet down now.
Dr. Morley, this is Mrs. Victoria Barkley and her daughter, Audra.
How do you do?
I'd like to see him.
I can't permit that, Mrs. Barkley. For your own safety, he's much too upset.
When can we?
Well, I'm not sure.
Doctor, they have to catch the morning stage to San Francisco. Wouldn't it be possible for them to...
Well, you know as well as I do how unpredictable Mr. Barkley's moods are, Eric. I'm afraid we'll just have to wait and see how he is in the morning. Well, now, I must be getting along.
I'll walk out with you, Doctor.
Yes, I'll be back in the morning before you leave.
Would you like to freshen up before supper?
Yes, thank you.
I'll have your bags brought right up. Oh, it's like that. He paces and paces and paces for hours on end, up and down, back and forth like a... Give anybody some more coffee?
No, thank you.
Not for me.
No, me, thank you. I'll just finish what I have and run, if you forgive me. I promised Dad I'd stop by the office tonight.
How is your father, Eric?
But these are pretty rough times for him, Mrs. Barkley.
Yes, I guess his silver mine is the only one in the state that hasn't shut down.
They'll never shut him down. You know Dad and how he feels about Abbotsville. This is his town. He started it. He built it. He's poured his whole life into it. Let me tell you something you might not know. My father lost a fortune in the crash of '66, and again in '71. But the mine and the stamp mill didn't shut down for one day. He kept the men working, and he kept Abbotsville alive.
I know the story. Your father is a fine man.
Yes, he is, Mrs. Barkley. They don't come any finer. Well, I better be getting along.
And I'll see if Grace can use some help. Audra, take Eric to the door. Eric, very nice seeing you.
Well, I wish it could have been under happier circumstances.
So do I.
I'm sorry you have to leave tomorrow.
I am too.
You were very close to your uncle, weren't you? Used to talk a lot about you. Well, about your brothers, too, but mostly about you. One didn't know better, one would have thought that you were Jim's daughter.
In a way, I was after my father died. He and Uncle Jim were so much alike. This was a second home to me. It was such a warm, busy, gay place.
Yes, there was always something happening. A party, a barbecue, a picnic.
Except after Aunt Ellen died. I spent that summer here. We rode and took long walks and sat out on the porch in the evening. Sometimes we talk, other times we just sit. And I realized I was the one person in the world he wanted to be with. I was only 15, but it was the first time anyone really needed me.
Look, Audra, I know how much you want to see your uncle. But if you want my opinion, you won't do it. You won't know him the way he's changed. And he probably won't know you. Wouldn't you rather remember the man you did know? Think about it. Goodbye, Audra.
Goodbye.
have you been?
Mrs. Newcomb invited me to stay to supper. And I'll bet you haven't had a thing to eat. All right, let's go get you some.
I don't want anything.
Hey, come on, partner. Quit worrying.
How did Mrs. Barkley take the news?
First some supper, then we'll talk.
We'll talk now.
Well, she took it about as I expected. She wants to see Jim naturally. But she won't. There just won't be enough time before she and Audrey have to catch the morning stage. Morley will see to it.
Are you sure? Suppose he can't.
Oh, Dad.
I know Victoria Barkley, Eric.
So do I.
She's no fool.
Far from it.
If she ever suspects...
She won't.
I can't let you do this for me, Eric. This is my problem.
Dad. Dad, one of the first things I ever remember you telling me when I was a boy is that I would never have a problem that wasn't our problem. Yours and mine. And that's the way it's always been.
Eric.
And this time it's my turn, Dad.
I want to tell the truth.
But you'd be ruined. Dad, don't you understand? Everything you've worked for your whole life would end up nothing. I'm not going to let that happen to you, Dad. I'll never let that happen to you. Now, let's go home, huh?
Miss Barkley, I didn't mean to frighten you. I just got back from town, saw the barn doors were open, thought it might be a prowler.
Well, it was so warm I couldn't sleep. I came out for a breath of fresh air.
Pretty warm night, all right. I'm sure glad you and Miss Audra came. Might help Mr. Jim, you and your family being his only living relatives.
Eric and the doctor don't seem to think so. They believe he's beyond help.
It could be. Pretty bad with him. I guess maybe Mr. Eric or Grace told you how he came at me with the bail hook.
That must have been a terrible experience for you.
I don't blame him. Wasn't the man I'd known all these years. Just some poor, kill-crazy animal that didn't know what it was doing.
Mike, what happened to the horses?
Mr. Jim sold them.
His Palominos? When?
Right after he took sick.
But why? He loved those horses. Why would he get rid of them?
Well, I guess you could ask that question about a lot of things he did. All I know is that one day Mr. Eric came to me and told me to sell them for the best price I could get.
Eric told you?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, he's been sort of running things for Mr. Jim for, well, it's over a year now. He's got full power of attorney and everything. But Mr. Jim did approve of the sale of the horses.
Mm-hmm. Mike, this ranch isn't being worked at all, is it? I mean, the bunkhouse empty, the corral overgrown. Why?
Well, mostly because the men we had left after what Mr. Jim did to me.
And you couldn't hire others?
Greenhorns and waddies, maybe, but none worth their salt. You've got a spread of your own, Miss Barkley. You know how it is. Place gets a bad name for something, and the good men just...
Good night, Mike.
Good night, Miss Barkley.
We weren't expecting to see you this morning.
Good morning. I thought I'd come out and drive you into town to catch a stage.
Well, that was very thoughtful of you, but you needn't have bothered. Mike would have taken us.
Well, as a matter of fact, I had to come out anyway. I'm afraid I've got some rather disappointing news for you.
Oh?
Dr. Morley was called over to Wall River on an emergency.
Then he won't be here this morning.
I'm afraid not. At least not before you have to leave. He asked me to apologize for him.
Is that all he said?
No. He told me to tell you that he couldn't permit you to see Jim unless he was present. Look, I'm not sure I agree with him. But if he feels that way, well, I'm afraid that's the way it's going to have to be.
Did he say when he would be here?
No.
This afternoon, perhaps?
Well, he didn't say. I just don't know.
Well, there's nothing for us to do but wait and see.
But your stage leave...
We won't be taking it.
Now, what about the wedding? Won't you miss it?
Well, there's a 7 o'clock train tonight out of Parkersburg, and that will get us into San Francisco in plenty of time. As a matter of fact, this whole thing may work out much better. It will give me a chance to go into town and see some friends I haven't seen for a long time. Would you like to come with me, Audra?
No, thank you. I'll stay here.
Well, then I guess I better be getting back to town. Look, I can come back and drive you to Parkersburg if you like.
Oh, no. Mike will take us.
Well, then I'll say goodbye again.
Eric, before you go, I'd like to ask you a question. Why did you sell Jim's Palominos?
Why? Because Jim told me to.
That was after he became ill.
Yes.
Well, surely you're not letting him run his own affairs in his condition, are you?
Oh, of course not. But in a case like this, what difference did it make? You see, the horses didn't mean anything to Jim anymore. 5 minutes after he told me to sell them, he couldn't remember that he had ever owned them.
But you went ahead and sold them anyway, hmm?
Mrs. Barkley, those Palominos were expensive to keep. And with the ranch not working, with everything going out and nothing coming in, I didn't feel that I could afford to be sentimental about a bunch of horses.
Well, I suppose you're right. But I wish I had known about the situation here. I would have bought those horses. I know how much they meant to Jim. And we Barclays, well, we put great store in sentiment.
I'll remember that the next time. Bye, Mrs. Barkley.
Victoria, how are
Nice to see you.
Sit down. You look fine, just fine.
Thank you.
How's the family? Everybody sitting up and taking nourishment?
Uh-huh.
Good. What can I do for you? You don't need a doctor. I can tell that just looking at you.
I came here to talk to you about Jim.
How is he?
That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I'm not his doctor anymore, you know. There's a new fellow in town, Dr. Morley.
What can you tell me about him?
Well, I don't know. Nothing much. Came to Abbotsville about 2 months ago, just about the time that Jim began to fail.
Where did he come from?
Some silver camp, I understand. The way these silver camps have been shutting down lately, this state is going to have almost as many unemployed doctors as it has miners. You know, Dr. Morley first set up practice here. I thought he was going to run me right out of business. Him being young, knowing all the new ways of doing things. Somehow, it hasn't worked out that way.
What do you mean?
Well, he kind of discourages folks from coming to see him. Talk has it that he has a private income, and he doesn't care whether he has any patients or not.
Except Jim, apparently.
Have you seen Jim? Is that what's bothering you?
Among other things.
Like what?
That I knew nothing about Jim's condition until Audra and I got here yesterday. Now, when was the last time you saw him?
Just before he and Eric went on that trip to Arizona.
How was he?
Fine, as far as I could tell. But that doesn't mean a thing. Jim was in Arizona almost a month. Anything can happen to a man in that time.
Doesn't it seem odd to you that this man Morley was called in after you had been Jim's doctor for years?
Not to me, it doesn't. I'm an old man, Victoria. And I haven't kept up with the latest developments in medicine. I don't make any bones about it. No. No, my feelings aren't hurt because Eric called in Morley. I think he did the right thing. I might have recommended the same thing myself.
I see. Well, I would like to ask a favor of you.
What's that?
That you see Jim before Audra and I leave here.
Now, what good will that do?
I don't know, but would you do it?
I can't, Victoria. Not without Morley's permission.
Amos.
And anyway, I'm supposed to be in Lake Junction
Amos,
today.
this is important.
All right. I'll discuss it when I get back.
No, that will be too late. Audra and I will be gone.
Well, Lake Junction isn't that far. Huh? I'll be back in a few hours.
That was the bridge out.
What bridge?
The Canyon Creek Bridge. Man flagged down the stage yesterday and said the bridge had collapsed.
The Canyon Creek Bridge isn't out. I came across it myself just yesterday
the man
evening.
stopped the stage and... Amos. Someone wanted to delay Audra and me in getting to Abbotsville. Or... perhaps they didn't want us to get here at all.
It kind of seemed that way, wouldn't it? Maybe I better take a look at Jim.
Good.
What time are you leaving?
We have to leave the ranch at 5 in order to catch the 7 o'clock train.
Well, I have to make a call out that way later. I could be by Jim's about 4.
Thank you, Amos. Thank you very much. Eric! I was just on my way to your office. I've just had a talk with Amos Pierce.
Oh? About Jim?
Yes. I asked Amos to see him.
Did he agree?
Any objections?
No, I have no objections. But Dr. Morley will.
Dr. Morley is not in town, and I have no intentions of leaving here until I know more about Jim's condition than I do.
Dr. Morley told you.
He told us nothing.
Well, it's not my place to say anything in a case like this. If you want Amos Pierce to see Jim...
I do.
Well, that's fine with me, Mrs. Barkley.
Eric?
Mrs. Barkley.
Mike's bringing the buggy around. He says you better leave now or you'll miss your train. I'll take your suitcases out.
I can't understand where Amos is. He said he'd be here before 5.
Mother, why don't we miss the wedding?
Oh, no, you can't do that. You're maid of honor. Harriet would be terribly disappointed.
Well, that can't be helped.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Now, you go on to San Francisco.
Mother,
now, hear me out. After the wedding, come right back here. You'll be gone less than 48 hours. And then we can stay on here as long as we want to.
You'll be sure to send me a telegram after you've seen Uncle Jim.
It will be waiting for you when you get to San Francisco. Oh, those 2 bags will stay here.
You're not going?
Audra is, but I'm staying. Now, Audra, give Harriet my love and tell her how sorry I am.
I will. I'll be back Sunday.
All right. Have a good time.
Can I fix you a cup of tea, Mrs. Barkley?
No, thank you. I'm going to drive into Abbotsford.
Yes, ma'am?
I was looking for Dr. Pierce.
I guess you haven't heard.
Along with Jim Barkley, Amos Pierce was one of my father's oldest friends. And I've known Doc Pierce for as long as I can remember anybody. Mrs. Barkley, I am just as shocked by what's happened as you are. And if you're implying that I had anything to do with it...
I asked a question.
The answer's yes. Yes, it was a coincidence that this happened to Doc Pierce right after you asked him to see Jim. Such coincidences do occur. Mrs. Barkley, it's obvious that you don't trust me. Now, I don't know why.
I'm interested in my brother-in-law's welfare.
And his estate. Oh, come now, Mrs. Barkley, isn't that a fair question? After all, when Jim dies, you will be his sole beneficiary.
Well, I'm not exactly a poor relation who needs his money.
Oh, that's true.
Then what are you getting at?
Well, I'm trying to find out what it is that you suspect me of. The thing that comes to mind is that perhaps you think I am mismanaging Jim's financial affairs.
So?
So you've got an appointment with me for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to receive a complete accounting of all my transactions with Jim.
I want to see Jim, not his ledgers.
I'll arrange for that at the same time.
All right, Eric. All right. But you and Dr. Morley had better not disappoint me this time. Because I'm going to see Jim before I leave here. Even if it means breaking down his door to do it.
Eric? Easy now, Mrs. Barker.
Oh.
Easy.
Eric, I went into his room.
I know. That's why we tried to convince you he was dangerous. Mike and Grace found you unconscious on the floor.
Where's Jim now?
He's gone.
Gone?
He ran away. Sheriff Clark and a posse are out looking for him now.
Oh, well,
You gotta rest, Mrs. Barker. You gotta rest. I want you to take this medicine. It'll help you to sleep. Dr. Morley prescribed this for Grace. It'll start working right away. What is it?
Your ring.
My ring?
It wasn't Jim. It was you. You! Run! Shut up!
What are you doing here?
The story about what happened here last night is all over town. How could I stay away?
Look, I want you to go home and stay out of it. Let me handle it.
What are you going to do?
Please, just go home.
Well, tell me.
All right. Victoria Barkley knows it was me in a room last night.
What else does she know?
Isn't that enough?
I'm going to tell the truth, Eric.
Oh, Dad, will you just stop saying that?
I don't care what happens to me. I won't permit murder.
You're too late.
What do you mean?
Do you really think Amos Pierce fell down those cellar steps accidentally?
Eric.
Mrs. Barkley had talked him into seeing Jim. I had to stop him.
My God.
So if you tell the truth now, it'll be the news for all of us. For the Newcombs, Morley, for you and for me.
Amos Pierce. What are we, Eric? What have we done?
What have we done? Dad, we saved the mine. We saved the jobs of 200 men. And we saved Abbotsville.
Who's gonna save us?
Sheriff Clark is here.
Any news, Sheriff?
Yeah. We found these on the riverbank between here and the Edwards place.
Have you ever seen them before, Mrs. Newcomb?
They're Mr. Jim's.
You sure?
Yes, he was wearing them yesterday. I put them out for him.
What do you think, Chef? He took these off to swim the river?
Well, that's how it looks to me. But it'd be a miracle if he ever made it, the way the current is this time of year. I put men to searching both banks of the river between here and Griffin's Ferry. But the way the river is, I have a hunch we'll never find Jim, alive or dead. How's Mrs. Barkley?
She's still unconscious. I left word for Dr. Morley to get out here as soon as he returns from Wall River. But I'm afraid he's going to be too late.
Well, if she dies, maybe it's a blessing that Jim did drown crossing that river. I'll see you later, Eric.
All right, Sheriff.
I thought you might like some hot coffee.
Mrs. Newcomb, you go up and stay with Mrs. Barkley. Morley should be here in a few minutes. Now keep the door locked and be careful. She knows it wasn't Jim Barkley in that room last night. Mrs. Newcomb, you and Mike don't want to have to leave here after all these years, do you?
No,
You just remember that.
I'm not likely to forget it, Mr. Eric.
You can buy people like Grace and Mike pretty cheaply. But a man like Morley must be rather expensive.
He is. But he's worth it when you need him.
Mrs. Barkley. Oh, no! What? No! No! Oh! Oh! Help! Help! Mr. Eric!
Mrs. Newcomb!
Mr. Eric! Help! Please! Help! Help! Mr. Eric! Mr. Eric! I'm locked in! Help! Please! Help! Help!
Stay away from me. All of you, stay away from me. Now, where's Jim? What have you done with him? Answer me, where's Jim?
The medicine's beginning to work, isn't it, Mrs. Barkley?
Answer me!
He's dead.
You killed him.
No, actually, it was an accident. It happened when we were in Arizona. His horse threw him. He was killed instantly. We were 4 days from the nearest town, so I buried him where he died.
If you didn't kill him, why did you try to make me believe he was still alive?
He did it for me,
For you?
to keep the mine open. To save Abbotsville. When the bank refused to lend me the money to keep going, Eric got it for me by using Jim's power of attorney to sell off some of his holdings. The Arizona land, the horses and cattle here in the ranch. We had to pretend Jim was alive in order to keep his estate from being settled and to keep you from knowing what we'd done. Oh, I intended to repay the money, and I still intend to. All I need is time. Just a little time. And I'll pay back every penny. We'll make it up to you.
And how are you going to make it up to Amos Pierce? Now you get out of my way.
Let her go.
I can't do that.
Get out of my... No! No!
Hey, now, as soon as Morley gets
Eric,
here, we're gonna stay out of it. You got what you wanted, didn't you? Just stay out of it, Dad.
And what did you get out of it, Eric? The pleasure of saving a dead mine and a ghost town for your father? Or were you trying to save it for yourself? A dead mine and a ghost town wouldn't have been much for you to inherit, would it? Would it? Ah!
That's enough, Eric. Why didn't you answer her?
Get her out of here.
No, Mike. Let her go. We've done enough.
Can't you see what she's trying to do?
I see.
Dad, it's not true. I wasn't doing it for myself.
I'd like to believe that.
You can.
I'll take your word for it.
Then put down the gun. Give it to me, Dad.
No, Eric. No, please.
Give me
don't.
the gun. Let me have
No,
the gun. Give me
no,
the gun, Dad.
no,
Let me have the gun.
You mustn't,
Let me
Eric.
have the gun.
You have to. No, Mike. Let her go.
Jared?
Well, this is a pleasant surprise. I didn't expect to find you still up.
No, I wasn't sleepy. I guess I'm enjoying being at home too much. How was the dance?
Oh, you know those Cattlemen Association dances. Same old stampede. By the way, Tom Porter is bringing our little Miss Audra home.
Oh. I'm glad Audra went to the dance. I think, in a way, Jim's death was harder on her than any of us. Oh, Jared, I want you to do a favor for me.
Name it.
I want you to go to Abbotsville and see Ben Abbott for me.
See Ben? What for?
Before I left, I persuaded the district attorney to drop charges against Ben. I felt that with Eric's conviction of the murder of Amos Pierce, that Ben had suffered enough.
Well, it could be. Just what is it you want me to see Ben about?
Well, I want you to find out how much it will cost to keep the mine operating for another 6 months. I think that the price of silver will be back up again, don't you?
Possibly so, possibly so. But there's a little more to it than that, isn't there?
Yes. Ben Abbott was a desperate man, but he's not a murderer. He saved my life, and I think I'd like to try and save his town for him. Otherwise, a lot of innocent people may be hurt, and we don't want that. We don't need another ghost town.
I'll tell you what. I'll leave first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Good night, Mother.
Good night. Jared.
Hmm?
Did you say that Tom Porter was bringing Audra home.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a very nice young man.
I got the feeling Audra felt the same way. She saved every dance for him.
Well, that's very, very interesting.
You know, I get the distinct feeling that you know something I don't.
Apparently, Audra didn't tell you what happened at Harriet's wedding.
No, what did happen?
She caught the bride's bouquet.